everyone, and welcome to another wonderful edition of the Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities presents the Hometown Haunts podcast. I'm your host, Kat Loco. Tonight with me in the shadows are Christina Wald and Jen Kohler, and we have a wonderful special guest who I'll be introducing in just a moment. So, like every week, we have our social media. So come follow us at Cin Cabinet Curio on Twitter, Cincy Cabinet of Curiosities on Instagram, and share your hometown haunts. It can be from anywhere in the world. And to send them to hometownhauntedmail@gmail.com. We're an official podcast as well on iTunes and SoundCloud. Find us on iTunes at Cincy Cabinet of Curiosities. Please rate and review us there, and on YouTube so other spooky lovers just like you can find us and enjoy the podcast and be part of our community. So, with that being all said, we have a really special guest today. It's our first fantasy author, and I'm excited because I've known her, I think, well over a decade. And I'm jazzed to the point where I'm shaking to have Chrissy on the show because she has a brand new book out. It came out just this last month. And we're going to talk all about her writing process, what she does, and some spooky or even spoopy stories from our past as ghost hunters. So I will read you her bio, so you can go look for her books and find them on Amazon and then rate and review them because that's how the internet works now. So, Chris Garrison, that's how you can find her, writes fantasy and science fiction novels and short stories. She is a founding member of the Speculative Fiction Guild. Chrissy's latest release is Trans-Witch, College of Secrets, which is set at a wizard school for the rest of us. Her Trans-Continental series is a steampunk adventure with a transgender woman as its protagonist. The series is set in one of the worlds in Chrissy's dimension-hopping science fiction adventure, Reality Check, Alien Beer and Other Stories, a collection of her short stories, which was released in 2017. Her books are published through Silly Hat Books. Chrissy has 2 urban fantasy trilogies, Road Ghosts, and its extremely excellent cover, and its companion series, The Tipsy Fairy Tales. She reads her stories on her Alien Beer podcast, which includes the Multiverse Blues and science fiction serial. Chrissy lives in Indianapolis, Indiana, with her wife and several cats. I am being outnumbered by cats with our guests on this show. She also enjoys gaming, sewing, and finding innovative uses for duct tape. Keep up on all the latest news from her releases at sillyhatbooks.com. So welcome, Chrissy, to the show.
It's good to see you, Kat. It's been a little while.
It has been a little while. We've all been locked up in our houses, but this gives us plenty of opportunity to write, create, and read, which is what we were talking about a little bit before the show. And your latest book is Trans-Witch, a College of Secrets, which I've been thoroughly enjoying all weekend. It's been a wonderful read really late at night. And I love the story and how the magic system works and everything. So I'm hoping we can talk a little bit about that and what inspired you to write a trans witch story.
I'm not sure I can tell that story. Well, maybe I will. I won't name names.
That's fine. You don't need to name names. I mean, tea always works well on the internet, but we don't need to go there. Yeah. I just like it because as a fellow witch writer, like sorcery and witches and wizards writer and lover of all things occult and magic, I enjoy your book because it has such a brilliant new take. Like, I'm still jazzed about that library scene and how you managed to make magical the things that are mundane in our world now.
I had a lot of fun with the library, and it's the thing that not everybody, but I've gotten more comments in the library than anything else. And I grew up loving libraries in the first place. So what more magical place could there be at a wizard's college than the library? So did you get the terrible pun I made in there?
I'm going to admit I only got halfway through the book.
No,
So
just you've been to the library, so you've seen the tiny, almost microscopic fish
fish,
that form
the letters.
pictures.
I missed the pun. It must have gone over my head.
Microfish.
Oh God, that's right. Why did I forget that? It was great. I was just like, I was in bed last night. I'm like, ha ha ha, and it just kept going. But you're right.
The other multimedia required kindling to run. So
yes, yeah, I liked the way the fire didn't burn, and also, so your main character is Lily, who we were talking about a little bit before the show, is a middle-aged woman who discovers that she's a witch while trying to find her wife. And I have not solved the mystery yet, so no spoiling. But I have been enjoying the adventure she's been on so far. And as a person who would be, you call in the story mundane, she's a really good voice for everyone reading the book, because we're experiencing all this for the first time too. And I liked her reaction to fire.
Yeah.
It was very, very relatable.
Well, fire in a library seems like a bad idea, but it's contained. So, and it produces a multimedia experience. I forget now. I don't think she doesn't experience it till later, I think.
There was a trial run where she falls in and sees the Constitution being signed.
Okay, that's when I was thinking of.
Yeah.
So, and she had a little vision while she was at it. So
yeah.
I guess the idea I had to write this came out of a place of frustration. I'm not going to name names, but a certain very famous witchy author, a wizardly author anyway, has been disenfranchising her readers, including me.
Mm-hmm.
I was even though I encountered that series as an adult, I bought all the hardback books as they came out, and I watched all the movies as they came out, and found out later she doesn't believe that I am a actual person worth rights and things, and that upset me to know that I was not welcome in her wizardly school after all that. And so I made some jokes about on my Facebook about having what the kind of head explosion it would cause to have a trans wizard at that, or a trans magical person at that particular wizard school. And I made some parody stuff that I got a huge reaction from my friends and so forth from, that I didn't expect. It was like 120 likes in a day, and I don't get that kind of social media explosion. So everyone says you should write this. Like, oh, I can't write that, gosh, And then I said, okay, I'm going to write this, and I sat down, and it was a really difficult time I wrote it in too, so I put a lot of that energy into it. The short version is that in the room across the hall is a small bathroom, and the toilet exploded and flooded our house with and kitchen with and that was being worked on. The place was being torn up, and we only just recently finished, not finished, but got our kitchen back and everything 5 months later. And
it looks gorgeous now, though.
Oh, well, thanks.
The new kitchen.
We're really close to being done with the upstairs. The downstairs is another question that I don't want to think about right now. But I had all the frustration from that, and the election, and some other things going on, and I sat down and I wrote, and I lost myself in the world of Trans Witch, and I tried as best I could to visualize a place that that I could, people like me could fit in. And mostly, at first the idea was to thumb my nose at that particular author, but it went from a spiteful place to a more of a affirming place. I really wanted to write something, not just to be, crappy about it. I wanted to I wanted to make a place that people like me would feel welcome. And so, like I say, a wizard college for the rest of us. And there are some challenges that Lily has to face, but overall, it's more of a kind of place you'd like to be.
Mm.
I filled it with students that were the kind of students that would have been probably rejected from that other school.
Yeah, but I love them. They're some of my favorite characters, especially when they're introduced. You did a really good job of describing how they looked and acted and related with one another, which some authors don't really do, which I really enjoyed that because as I was saying before the show, when I was reading your book, I think of everything in animations and I could very easily animate in my head not only how they looked and spoke, but also related to the rest of the world. And that was great. I think you did a great job if you got other people to interpret what you were saying. So, yay, cheers to you.
I didn't directly base it on any particular people I know, but I do know thanks to Facebook, I'm in circles that have younger people and younger nerdy queer people that really make me happy that they exist. And I'm just cheering for them, wishing in some ways that I'd grown up in that accepting of a time,
Oh,
compared.
yeah. It's grown up so much just in the past decade.
Oh yeah.
Because you and I, we both go to conventions. You go to Gen Con a lot.
Yeah, maybe not this year. I'm not sure.
Well, not, yeah.
Not last year.
This past, it was a mulligan, this 2020. Like,
I
just said goodbye to all of my conventions I went to.
I'll have you know, I've been to every Gen Con. Well, no, I missed 2 Gen Cons from 1987 till 2019. That's it. And then I missed 2020. And I don't have a lot of excuse for missing it now since it moved to Indy. But yeah, it was my favorite convention. It was the only convention I went to for a really long time.
I hear it's a good convention. I have still yet to go there.
It's so huge. Every year I say, this is too many people, I'm never going to go again. And then every year I go back anyway, except for, of course, pandemic time. So
I wonder what percentage of Indiana, like, Gen Con makes up in that one weekend it happens.
Well, I think that they have they have something. There are different numbers that they use. I think it's definitely over 60,000 attendees. So it's the size of like Lafayette.
Oh, all in one place.
Or the population of IU Bloomington. The students in at
so
IU.
You have a bunch of other wonderful stories. Now, Road Ghosts I'm interested in because we are very much a paranormal themed. Yay! Oh, yes. Yes. A paranormal themed podcast. Can you just give our audience a brief summary of what Road Ghosts is? Like what it's about?
Yeah. Do you want it from a reader point of view? I'll tell you that first, and then I'll tell you, if you don't mind, I'll tell you how the origin of Road Ghosts. But
yeah,
because they kind of tie into to our history too.
Yeah.
The Road Ghosts started with 2 words, haunted road trip, and and I'll get to why later. But the very first book the Road Ghosts is actually 3 books and a short story. Well, there's other short stories that are not included, but and they were named after Robert Johnson's songs, "For Till Late," "Sinking Down," and "Being the Devil." And they're about a bunch of friends, 4 of them. Well, there's more than there's an extended family of friends that get pursued or are pursuing ghosts and ghouls, and there's demonic possession, and there's plenty of supernatural stuff going on. It's kind of like Scooby-Doo meets Supernatural, as I like to say. It's grown-ups on a road trip, and they're initially just going to have fun in New Orleans over a break, or over they're beyond school, but they're just running away to go see the Big Easy, and along the way all kinds of crazy haunted things happen to them, and the plot thickens as they go, and then some of the things that happen in that book come back to haunt them. Well, it's kind of like the haunted strikes back in the second book, in that they have a little ghoul who is a former human who has she's like a preteen who has lost most of her soul, and she's a lost soul, and they're trying to save her from somebody who wants to capitalize on her. And so when she gets kidnapped, they have to go running after her, and they end up at a paranormal convention that I made up. And and there's a lot of running around like that, and there's some confrontations and all. And the third book actually is the first one I get more into actual ghost hunting, like you and I have done. Which I'll get to that too, because I'll probably tell the real life story out of that I fictionalized in there. But
nice. Yeah.
So the history, they're really, if you don't mind me blabbing on some more, but
no, you're fine.
The road ghost comes from a really personal place. My Uncle Chuck was like a cousin to me. He was only 5 years older. He was the youngest of my grandma's kids, and 19 years younger than my mom. And we grew up together, and I kind of idolized him, even though he was kind of a troublemaker, and kind of crass, and it was a front he put on. He just liked making people laugh, and but he was a lot smarter than he let on. He liked to be liked to pretend that he was kind of your redneck type, but he wasn't. His bookshelves were full of very intellectual things that I read a lot of trash, but but anyway, Chuck ended up dying young in 2007, and I was by his bedside for the last week of his life. And one of the things about Chuck was that he was a writer in his spare time. He idolized Hunter S. Thompson from the Rolling Stones, Rolling Stone magazine, and he used to call himself Gonzo sometimes as a moniker, because that's what Hunter Thompson's nickname was, Gonzo. And so I made a Gonzo character. Well, I'm skipping ahead too much. I had all this grief in October of 2007 after my uncle passed, and I decided that I'd been putting off for years, in Chuck's honor, since he was a writer and never got published, that I would write my first book during National Novel Writing Month. And I thought, what am I going to write it about? And they say, write things you know. And so at the time, I was still part of a ghost hunting group. Can we say the name on here?
I don't know. Do they still exist?
I think they may, in some small way.
Okay, so we'll just say, yeah. So sorry, Christina, we're going to make you edit. We're just going to make you edit all this out.
Well, at the time, the most popular ghost hunting group, and maybe the only ghost hunting group in Indiana. And
I think they were the only at the time.
Well, okay, not by 2007, but when Amy and I joined in 2003.
Yeah, we'll just gloss over their name and say we were part of a paranormal team somewhere in Indiana.
That spanned the state, but our chapter was based in Indianapolis, and and then we moved. Since Lafayette needed some officers, we went there for a while because we had friends up there. But like I say, we were, Amy and I, my wife Amy and I were hunting ghosts from 2003 to 2010. But by 2007, we were old hands at it. And so I thought, I want to write about ghost hunting. But I wanted to do a fictional version. And I wanted to do something to honor my late uncle, and he and I used to take all these road trips. He wanted to show me you could have fun, even on no budget, and just take off, just get in your car and go, and have adventures. And those were a different kind of adventures. So I thought, the two kinds of adventures I know anything about, and so I made a book about a haunted road trip. And that was For Till Late, and I thought that would be it. I would have checked off that box. I've written a book. I'm done. I'm just, and I was going to self-publish so that I could say, there you go, Chuck, I published a book in your honor, and well, then I had a dream about the characters that the following summer, and said, no, this has to be another book. So that Sinking Down was the second book got written. And I thought, well, it can't stop with two. There has to be a trilogy. I'm terrible about trilogies. And so we ended up with Me and the Devil the third year. So now in the first two, it's completely fictional as far as ghost stuff goes. There's demonic possession and then, like I said, a ghoul. And
Yeah.
in the third one, I decided to go back to my ghost hunting roots, and I talked about some places I'd actually been, and I
Ooh.
exaggerated in some cases, and sometimes it was verbatim to pretty much what had happened while I was there. So
Yeah. That's what we totally do. The Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities started out the comics anthology that this podcast is a spin-off of, was just me telling ghost stories about weird places I had visited with the Cincinnati comics group whenever we meet up over drinks. We would do a drink and draw, and just kind of like with your speculative fiction guild. Wow. What was that? Anyway. Like, and you do beta reading of all of each other's stuff. This is what we do, but it's just all comics. And so everyone was like, hey, those are interesting stories. Do you want us to tell them too? And I'm like, sure. So that's how we got the Cabinet of Curiosities going. So I really love that. Just taking from weird ghost stories. Now, the third book, is that your Hannah House story?
don't think I have. No, I have a great Hannah House story, and you said you wanted to hear a hometown story, so that would be the best one. I don't. Well, the place I went is included in the other place that I'm not sure I should. No, I can talk about it now. It's anyway. I'll get to that.
We can always blurp it out.
So
yeah, it's because Christina, these are not live. Christina edits them out so that we sound great. We sound good now, but she makes us sound great. So
I'll tell that story by itself, so it can be X'd out if it's not a good idea. But
okay.
The Indianapolis story, if you want me to tell one, is not included in as a fictionalized version, but because it's not going to make as much, but the methods are used in there. So what we were in a room with another ghost hunter at the Hannah House. It was broad daylight, and I'm going to tell this out of chronological order, but just because it's more fun that way. And Amy had just she liked gadgets, which was funny because I was usually the gadget person, but she liked ghost gadgets. And so she had a digital compass.
Oh,
and the digital compass was like you have in your car. It tells you what direction it's pointing. And she was looking at it, and I was recording with a video, I shouldn't worry about it too much, but a digital video camera that was going to digital tape, and
like a handy cam.
Yeah, but I mean anybody's phone can do that now. But it was a Sony DV, something like that. So, but I was looking through the lens, looking around, and all of a sudden I see the battery on it just dropping, and moments later, Amy says, "Oh, what's the language level on this? Do I have to censor my words?"
We can censor. We can. It's fine.
Amy says, "What the hell?" Because her compass. She said later her compass had turned from north to east in all at once, and it was not being nothing was near it, and the other guy in the room, his compass, his magnetic compass, the needle kind that we usually have, also turned abruptly at the same time. And so we had, three things happen at once, which is good evidence for a ghost hunter, not necessarily a campfire spooky story, but we had one more piece of evidence when we reviewed the videotape later. On the videotape, there was or maybe it was on a voice recorder. One of them had "keep away" whispered at the exact time, because right after it says "keep away," Amy goes, "What the hell?" So it was exactly at the time that we all three saw something happen. So
wow.
Some of the best.
What room were you in the Hannah House?
It was just one of the front rooms. The there's a as you go in, it's the one to the right.
It's like
Instead
a
of going up the
parlor room,
stairs.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind
Yeah.
of a parlor. I'm trying to picture what was in the room too. But yeah, it's one of the rooms right off of the hallway.
Yeah, like Hannah House is a really interesting place. For those who don't know, because we have some listeners that don't live in the Midwest, um, it is it George Hanna built it? Did I get that name? Did I just pull
I've
it out of the
been a little
ether?
while.
Yeah, it's a, just an Italianate style house, but it's notable because it was on the Underground Railroad. And so you have a lot of spooky things happen there. One of the legends states that one night there was a group of escaped slaves that were in the basement. They were sleeping on hay. Somebody accidentally kicked over an oil lamp and the entire basement caught on fire. Several of the members of the party died and they're buried in the basement floor.
Because they
So
had to hide them because it was the Underground Railroad.
yeah, you had to hide them because yeah. Um, so yeah, that's some of the principal ghosts. I think the Hannahs also haunt the place. When I was there, I did a very brief investigation, and we had the baby bassinet in the nursery started swinging on its own. And then in the basement, we heard somebody crying, like a bemoan, like a moan
Mm.
that wasn't a member of our group. So that was it's good evidence because we collected it. We got the bassinet swinging on camera. We heard the moan. We got it on tape. But like you said, it's not exactly spooky campfire stories, but it's good evidence for us that are collecting evidence of the unknown, I guess.
Yeah, the only direct thing I had happen there was also in that time period. We were going to be the I'm going to blurt out the name of the group and not mean it. But the group we were a part of was going to do a sort of fundraiser by doing a haunted tour of the in-house at around Halloween. And it wasn't later on; those became jump out and go boo sort of haunted house. But we were actually telling people real stories and
Mm-hmm.
showing real evidence and real history, and which I guess is not as sensational as jump out and go boo with a chainsaw. But for us it was better at the time.
I like it more. I
I
like
did.
true history more, but
Well, my job in that was to show off the gadgets, the equipment we use. And so I had
Mhm.
cases of equipment I in either hand going up the stairs during the day while people were talking in the next room about planning. And we were getting ready to do it for the first time. And so it was again broad daylight. I walked up the stairs, and as I walked up the stairs, something said in my right ear, "Go away." And I thought it was one of the other people in the group messing with me. And but I looked back and there wasn't anybody there. I put the cases down up the top of the stairs, went back downstairs and looked around, and nobody was near there. And then I got the chills because I thought I was just, it's common to mess with people with their
Yeah.
ghost hunters. You have a lot of jokes about that, like
Yeah.
no human would stack books that way or something,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but I
Yeah.
had a real experience and didn't discount it. I discounted it as it was happening, and then realized later, no, that was real.
Yeah. That's pretty common, I think, with all of us. Is just to go, huh? And then we're like, oh.
Yeah. The other thing about Hannah
So
I can tell is that when my first visit there was with a couple of people who wrote a book about in haunts in Indianapolis that I don't know if I can mention, but I mean, I guess I could. It's
there's so many books. So
Yeah. Well, Lori and Carrie were a couple of my mentors, and they have a book I'd have to Indianapolis hauntings or Indianapolis Ghost. Oh, it's the Ghost Hunter's Guide to Indianapolis. But
okay.
they had not written that book yet, not for a few years later. But we were there. Amy and I were there with them on our first visit to Hannah House, and we went in the basement, and one of them says to the other, "Isn't?" And we were recording at the time. It was, "Isn't this where you got that Find Me?" And because apparently they'd gone there before and done a recording, and then they had an EVP, electronic voice phenomenon, of a voice going "Find Me," and when we played ours back, seconds before she said that, there was a find me. And it was
Ooh,
like, find me. And then, isn't this where you got the find me? It was the weirdest thing because
wow.
the timing was just eerie.
Were one of them a medium?
No, neither one.
Or okay.
Well, they never
They
claimed to
just
be.
yeah.
They were,
That's really interesting.
yeah. Um, I don't think at the time at the time we didn't have any real mediums in the group. We just well, not, I mean, I'm sure everybody had a little bit of a some people had their stories about, but nobody hung their hat on that. It wasn't their thing. But
Right, right.
those two didn't. They were more about taking
Okay.
pictures and looking at them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, those are a couple of my local ones. The other one. Do you want one more?
Yeah. Oh, I will take as many as you will serve. I
So this is the
love
one.
ghost stories.
This is the one you might clip out.
Okay.
At the time, we said we would never tell anyone about it. So,
Ah.
but I'm pretty sure that the people who were there don't work there anymore, and the place is Central State.
Oh, yes.
And
I don't think Central State exists anymore.
doesn't really. They're knocking it down to put up condos, or maybe the condos are.
Yeah.
And there's a police horse barn there, or something like that. And
Okay. I know the medical museum for IU is in one of the old buildings,
yeah, that's
unless
still
they've
there.
moved. But
I think they're still there. Although, yeah, and um, so we were invited on the sly to come ghost hunt there. And one of the security guards had said we could do it. They gotten permission for us. And so
mhm.
um, we had a good time exploring the administration building, which I know that's knocked down,
Mhm.
and some of the tunnels, and those were super scary. And one of the dorms, we came up from the tunnels into one of the dorms, which would have otherwise been blocked off, and the powerhouse, which was a ruin at the time even.
Mhm.
So and what did Amy get? Oh yeah, we were in the administrative building, and uh, it was pretty early in our career as ghost hunters, and Amy was doing um, digital audio recording, and when we played it back later, someone says, that door that says "keep out" just makes me want to go in there more. And then right next to the mic, like really close to the mic, you hear "why?" And Amy played this for me before bed, and I was, there was, and I was just, got the goosebumps. I even get the goosebumps thinking about it now. And
Yeah.
I'm just about to sleep, and Amy leans over and goes, "Why?" And I said, "Don't do that."
Oh, that's mean.
It was our first good EVP, really. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, that was a weird night, and I don't remember all of it because it's been a long time. That was 2003.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
and so we couldn't talk about it for a long time because we weren't supposed to. And
Yeah.
I just think that the statute of limitations has probably expired on that. And I'm not naming names because I don't remember any
Probably.
names. So
Yeah.
the group we went is disbanded, and the I don't think that the people could have a job there anymore because it's not
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
on the list anymore. So
Yeah. It's kind of sad to see that bit of Indiana history get torn down, but I could totally see why they do it from a safety standpoint at the same time because there are no funds to rehab all those buildings. Like you'd have to take asbestos out and the lead, all that stuff, and that's expensive and time
oh yeah,
consuming.
no way, yeah.
So,
All that stuff was the latest stuff built there was in the early 80s. So
yeah.
and they
So,
didn't even have any, asbestos kind of laws by then, I don't think.
yeah, now it was a free for all.
Yeah.
Lead paint, let me just drink that by the gallon.
My uncle, not the uncle I mentioned, but a different uncle, curmudgeonly uncle, would say, "Oh, we used to have it raining down on the ceiling on our sandwiches, and we ate them anyway." From where he's, asbestos isn't a problem, So, so yeah.
No.
And now we got all those mesothelioma ads on TV and
Yeah.
stuff.
Do you? or someone you love have mesothelioma? Then call this number and you could be part of this class action lawsuit.
Right.
Yeah.
The other
Oh, man.
thing at Central State was we found the site of a cemetery that you can I mean that was it was an open secret. They had just moved the tombstones somewhere else, but they left the graves there. And it's because there were all these sinkholes, where the graves had been. You could just, if you looked at it from a distance, especially when there was some frost on the grass, so you could see where it dipped easier.
Oh, man.
But we found there were these mole holes, and somebody actually found bits of like a knuckle bone, a human knuckle bone.
Wow.
And I don't know, that's a story I shouldn't tell.
What did you do with it?
Someone in the group took one home, and I was kind of horrified. And the person reported being just mercilessly haunted at their house. And
they were going too.
And they had just put it in like a curio box in their closet. And the husband, oh crap! Well, okay, she, well, the group was mostly women anyway. But the husband just made her take it back. She took it back to the grounds and said, "I'm sorry, okay," and the haunting stopped. But I wrote a short story about that was from the ghost's point of view. And the ghost
that's a good point of view.
Yeah, the ghost had agoraphobia in life, and that was why they were at Central State, and in like the 50s. And so I have the ghost talking from that point of view, being that age. And it was one of my stories in my short story collection, but it's called A Bone to Pick, and it's talking about how they wanted to go home, and so they were just going to make their life miserable until they took her home, the ghost bone home. So
I like that. That's a good story.
Yeah.
Well, with that, I think I'll bring in Christina and Jen so we can add more to this conversation. Christina, Jen.
All
right.
Gosh. A really interesting discussion about all the ghost hunting and your Gen Con and convention experience.
Mm-hmm.
I used to go to Gen Con more in the 90s. I haven't gone really since, I think the last Gen Con I went to was the early 2000s. And now lately, if I go to Gen Con, I just meet some artists for dinner. I don't actually go to the show.
No.
I've never been. I've heard of it, but
it
I've
is
never
really
been.
cool. I mean, I love to game. I mean, now mostly, well, I say mostly tabletop, but I also play D&D every week too. So, but
it's nice it's here in Indy with me, but I kind of sometimes miss the road trip up to Milwaukee. So
I really liked it in Milwaukee. It was a lot of fun.
And also the Mars Cheese Castle is along the way. So
that sounds fun.
An essential part of any Gen Con trip back then.
Yeah, it was kind of fun when it was in Milwaukee.
Did you ever go to the Spy Bar?
Yes, that was really fun.
Yeah,
Safe House was what it was called.
Yeah, the Safe House, right?
And it was all like 60s spy themed and had fake walls. And there was like a door in the bathroom that you could accidentally get outside. Like it was to get into this bar, you had to have the safe word, you had to have the password. And so they had it. And of course, this was before like the prevalence of cell phones and easy, so you didn't have a lot of this, but you would be, they would make you do a trick, right? They made you do something and it was on closed circuit TV. Yeah, closed circuit TV, and everybody in the bar was watching.
Yeah,
it was really fun. It was a great place.
Oh, that's funny.
They had an alibi phone that could do different sound effects. Well, so you call someone on the that looked like a payphone, and then it was a payphone, but you could hit like sirens or gunfire or whatever, and it would put it in the background.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a lot of fun there. I don't know if it
still exists, but it was the sign outside in the alley says International Imports and Exports. And you had to know that certain letters were capitalized in it, and they spelled out Safe House, and that was the password.
Oh, fun!
If you didn't know that, they'd make you do tricks. So,
I think it was still around till recently. It's hard to say what survived COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, that a place like that's not going to survive like on takeout service or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Or-
imagine like you trying to pick up your food and like, what's the safe word? And you're like, I'm hungry.
Feed me, Seymour.
every
Feed
time you
me.
pat your head, balance on
Yeah,
one. Dang it! I just want my food.
Yeah.
yeah.
Give it to me.
It certainly is a really cool location. I think the convention center's a bit bigger, right? Is that, I don't know why they had decided to move. I can't remember what the
Yeah,
reasoning was for them to.
it was not just the convention center, but there's a lot more hotel space in Indy. It just outgrew Milwaukee, and they couldn't keep up. They even expanded the convention center in Milwaukee a few years before Gen Con left, but it just wasn't enough, especially
Mhm.
Oh
without
wow.
hotel space to accommodate. But I mean, it's only grown since it's coming. The first year was maybe a little bit fewer people, but after that, it's only grown by leaps and bounds. So it's like I say, every year I say it's getting too big. I can't go anymore. There's no way. I'm an introvert. I get a freak out in crowds. But Gen Con's sort of been the exception to that in general. But there've been a couple of times in the last, I don't know, 5 years that I've been, I've just felt like it was too much, and
Mhm.
I'll forget about it, and I'll go back to Gen Con again, and then I'll go, oh yeah, this is why I wasn't going to go.
Yeah. You could get almost claustrophobic from the amount of crowds that there are.
Well, on Thursday they opened the great hall, the dealer room. It's like a dealer stadium.
Yeah.
It's all of the banquet rooms that are put together. It's like a quarter
Mhm.
mile across or something like that. But they opened the doors to that after the opening ceremonies and let everybody in. Well, we've always called it the cattle call, but it used to be kind of a haha. There's hundreds of us here, and then it became thousands of people crowding
Mhm.
in at once. And I got a while ago. I mean, I don't know, 5 years ago, I tried to cross behind there at the wrong time. Just before opening, and it suddenly crowded in to the point where I couldn't just not go. It wasn't that just I couldn't go anywhere. I was actually pressed up against a wall,
Whoa.
Oof.
and I was just about ready to start screaming because it was so kind of crowd claustrophobic.
It's intimidating.
And then they opened the doors and things eased, and I got the hell out of there. So it was, yeah, it was. Yeah, but I mean, as long as you know where to stay away from it at certain times, it's mostly okay. But the halls could be really crowded.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
And the
think
Yeah.
that's
lines are really
happened
long.
to a lot of conventions. I mean, it's interesting because conventions, like, wouldn't you say, like, in the early 90s, it kind of felt like science fiction conventions were dying. Like, and I was talking to a friend about this because, you'd be there and they were tinier and tinier, and it was just a small group of people. And now it's like it's suddenly like blown up in pop culture again, which is really interesting. Um,
Mhm.
and I think that's great. A lot of my students, I teach illustration at NKU, play D&D, and even in the 90s, D&D was not as popular. All the other games, like, of course, the big thing was the vampire games,
Yeah.
all of White Wolf's offerings and stuff. And collectible card games. But it's been really interesting to see this resurgence in Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, I used to do artwork for Dragon magazine and stuff, and so it's fun.
Oh wow, I'm gonna fangirl over you. I have in my closet a few feet from me a box of Dragon magazines uh, from issue 63 to like 113.
Oh,
Oh
wow,
wow.
I got them
cool.
every month as a teenager,
Uh-huh.
and one of the more proud ones I was my brother was actually published in one of them.
Oh, writing
Oh,
or
nice.
art?
As an article. He did
Mhm.
an extension to second edition Thief characters called the Thief Acrobat, and that was the cover story for one of them. He didn't know it was going to be the cover story, but I'm not sure they did either. I think they might have said, let's make this one the one on the cover, and they had artwork done and all that. And
I would say I'm surprised that they don't have Dragon magazine anymore, but I suppose what's taken place of it is like Facebook groups and D&D Beyond and all that stuff. I mean, a magazine is really an antiquated concept anymore. People don't really buy paper magazines anymore.
they turned it into an online magazine for a little bit, and then they turned it into sort of subscription content for a while, and then I don't know if it still exists, honestly. So,
Yeah,
but I
I
think
think it's the
that was
times have
probably what you're.
changed. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
probably what it evolved into.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's sort of the times have changed and how people consume that kind of stuff. You know, and obviously Critical Role has really gotten a lot of young people energized, you know.
Yeah,
and stuff,
I actually haven't seen Critical Role, but I do listen to some podcasts that do actual play role playing. One called Roll. This is being recorded on International Women's Day, so I'll
Yes,
mention
that's true.
Yeah.
a podcast I was listening to for a long time, D&D actual play podcast called Roll Like a Girl, which was all women playing D&D 5th edition.
Mhm.
Fun.
I think they're on hiatus at the moment because COVID, but well, I mean they don't have to because they're all recording, but they I think they got COVID burnout like a lot of us, and
Yeah.
but they recorded years of stuff, so
Mhm.
that was a lot of fun. And I listened to the Unexplored Places, which is another actual play, but it's not D&D.
Mhm.
It's the Monster of the Week is one of the games they play.
Mhm.
Okay.
What's your gaming obsession? Are you RPG? Are you more into card games, or are you into tabletop? Like, what's your thing?
Tabletop stuff,
Mhm.
especially tabletop role-playing games, but I haven't played any for a while because my gaming group hasn't gotten together and they sucked at doing it online. So we really haven't. Well, I mean, we tried to do it. We tried to get on Zoom like this and do role-playing games, but everyone was like, I am tired. I cannot play.
Oh.
And
Oh no.
and we would share YouTube videos instead, and that
Oh,
and it was about like sitting around a room with our phones and going, hey, look at this. And and
it
then
turned into a watch party.
yeah, it was exactly like that, but it wasn't even that organized. And we tried a
Aw.
couple of times to do some like Jackbox games, and it just ended up that none of us had the energy for it. And several of us were in Zoom meetings all day at work and didn't want to Zoom anymore. And some of us were just demoralized and didn't want to put energy into online socializing. And I don't know, just games apparently weren't what my group wanted to do.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping eventually we'll get back together. Or I'll I'll have another group. I don't know. I'm trying to get something together right now. Oh, have you ever heard of a game called Traveler?
Mhm.
I have.
I did some artwork for Challenge magazine back in the day, and I did a cover for
Ooh.
Traveler.
This is the old 80s.
Oh, so
Wow.
you must like tables and rolling dice and statistics.
Yeah, I like dice. That one's not. I don't think Traveler was so bad with that.
Traveler is a pretty serious, it's a role playing game with lots of tables. And when I mean tables,
Yeah,
like anything that can happen is a die roll.
kind of. Yeah, I mean all the especially the character creation takes forever that way. But it's sort of like a flow chart. But I even
So what is your favorite game system? I know we're getting off paranormal and we'll get back onto that.
It's fine.
I grew up with D&D, of course, and I played first, second, third, and some 5th edition. I tried 4th and hated it, but
Everybody hated fourth.
no, I knew people who loved the number crunching. But it cried out to be computerized. It really trying a tabletop game trying to imitate like World of Warcraft, but not realizing. I mean, I don't know if they realized the burden of like math they were putting on people and sheer number of lookups for everything. It was just too much. Combats took forever. So, and I like story focused games these days. More fewer die. I mean, I love rolling dice, but fewer die rolls, less math, more story. So I like some of the, like I said, the powered by the apocalypse games like Monster of the Week, and I played some Masks. And I like a silly game. I have a hard time to get anyone to play it, but there's this role playing system called Rysis it's very simple. You can make a character in like 30 seconds. You just list a few cliches and assign some dice to them, and you're done. The whole rules system is 6 pages long. I love small rules like that. I have an elderly web page from the dawn of the web that I've been maintaining since like 93 that has free role-playing systems on it. A couple of them are mine. They're off the cuff, thing, beer and pretzels kind of games. Oh, I know what I really like lately is have you heard of the Lasers and Feelings?
No.
So
No.
there's a one-page role-playing game called Lasers and Feelings, and there's a girl band, well, not girl band, I don't know how to call them, a sibling band that called the Double Clicks that do geeky, silly, funny, not always funny, sometimes serious, geeky music, and they had a song called Lasers and Feelings. You've got lasers and I've got feelings. I can't think of the rest of the words, but the idea is it's about someone who's in love with a mad scientist, and the game was in honor of that song, and it's actually more about like Star Trek or something like that, where it's you have one stat, and that is a number between 2 and 5, and when you you either, if you want to do something that's lasers related, like technical, like fixing the warp core or something like that, you want to roll under your number, or no, you want to, you want to roll under your number or lower. And if you want to do feelings type things, which would be like, punching people out, trying to seduce someone, that kind of thing, you want to roll over your number. And so that stat, just says which way on the lasers or feelings slider you are. And that's the rules. And if you roll exactly your number, you get to ask the GM a question, and they have to answer. And so you can like solve things in the middle, and you can change your action if you roll your laser feelings, if you got it exactly on. And there's hundreds of variations of this game. I even wrote one, and it's called, you may recognize where I got it from. It's kind of obscure, but I called it Hunting Things, Saving People. You may guess what it's based off of. And saving people, hunting things, that's right. Not saving things, hunting people, but that'd be more up your alley. I don't know.
Real Jets.
Yes. I'm going to the convention this year, damn it, if they don't reschedule it again. Gosh. I got my Jared and Jensen picture photo op. I want that Jared and Jensen hug, damn it.
Man, but yeah, it's a game that there's even a golden / girls game where
hilarious.
You're either golden or you've got a cat coming down.
Yeah, that's Mippy.
Yeah,
she's our calico. I guess it's pretty obvious.
I love those little hacks, because one of them's called "Oh Dang, Bigfoot Stole My Car with My Best Friend's Birthday Present Inside." That's the name of the game, and it's a kind of a buddy road trip, goofy movie kind of scenario, and you but in all these, it's just the one stat, and so anybody can learn it, and you have certain things that just let you roll more dice to get more successes, or all that. So I like it because it's a simple sit down. Nobody has to pour through rule books, and you don't have to do a lot of number crunching. You have to get higher than the number, or you don't, or exactly on. So there's like one table.
Well, I fear I've gotten us really off on a gaming tangent. So I guess we can.
What happens when you got a bunch of nerd girls around? We're going to talk about conventions and gaming.
Yeah, she was just holding up a book, so
my Blue Spirit book, my Tipsy Fairy Tale books has a gamer girl as the main character, and in fact, the second book takes place at Big Con, which is basically Gen Con. Well, it is Gen
Big Con.
But I filed off the serial numbers. It's Big Con.
Well, it really is a big con. So I mean,
that's
not an exaggeration at all.
So, Chrissy, do you self-publish all of your books?
These days, I do.
Okay.
I have been with a couple of other small press publishers, and one of them, we had an initial contract for a certain amount of time that ran out, and I decided not to renew. I really like that publisher, though, so I don't want to sound like I have any bad blood, but the new contract wasn't as beneficial to me as the other one, and I thought I could do better on my own.
Okay.
And the other publisher had some bad press, so I moved my books elsewhere. So so I'm not mentioning publisher names, but as of early last year, everything I got the rights back to everything of mine and put it back
Oh,
out.
good.
Nice.
And
they're available on Amazon. I got
yeah.
my copy of Trans Witch off of Kindle.
I think some of them are paper books are even on some of them are on Barnes and Noble now, and Trans Witch, hint hint, is actually cheaper on Barnes and Noble. I don't know how that worked out, but they decided to discount it. So and
How has it been received so far? Have you gotten a lot of
very
people
well
saying
so
it?
far. Everybody who's read it has been excited about the library in particular, but
That's just it's so new and unique. And like, as somebody who reads a lot of occult and magic stuff, it starts getting really boring. You're just like, yep, that's how that magic system works. But yours was so, like, with the microfish, that was the most refreshing new idea with a pun that I completely zoned out on, apparently.
One person's gotten the pun, and it's like, I was screaming, I got that joke. That's why I shouldn't have said it here. It's spoiling it for people, but it was and I really wanted. I was really, the thing I liked the best about the library, if I were there, is the labyrinth, literal labyrinth of the stacks. The stacks are a literal labyrinth of bookshelves, and you work your way toward the center, and at the center is the nothing. So
yes.
Oh.
So you're going to get the people that love books, and then the people that love, fantasy and the idea of wizard schools and that sort of thing.
Well, and it's a hidden wizard school. It's at a fictional university called Moraine University, which, if you know anything about Indiana geography, you might get why I call it that. But it's somewhere southern Indiana is demarked by the range of hills, which are called an end moraine, geologically speaking.
Oh, really?
The glaciers stopped there, and that's why the rest of Indiana is flat as a pancake.
Really interesting.
And so Moraine University is in southern Indiana, and there is a school of applied metaphysics which is hidden at Moraine University, and you can only find it if you're magical. And there are portals and hidden doors and things like that, and there are whole abandoned floors of like the Union Building that are taken over by SOM, the School of Applied Metaphysics. And so all these secret places at a university are actually inhabited by the magical people, and you can't get there unless you are magical. So
you could make a neat game with this.
Yeah.
Labyrinths and secret doors and stuff like that. That might be an interesting game system.
That would be a good game system.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Ideas.
Scribble. I totally can make that up.
Oh no, that would be fun. We could play test for you.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, that would be really fun. I'll make it a laser feelings game. It'd be easy. But trans and witch. No, that won't work. I don't know. Anyway, I just had a lot of fun coming up with. I mean, I do that in a lot of my books. I try and find find regular places that seem magical, like in the Tipsy Fairy Tales. I mostly exclusively set in Indianapolis. The magical places there are places like the park that's near me, Holiday Park, has a secret evil witch's castle, well, not evil fairy castle in it, evil fairy queen castle hidden in plain sight, because in Holiday Park there's an actual fake ruins. They built the ruins as a feature of the park, and I figured that's got to be magical. So I decided there's a glamour over the whole thing that's hiding a real castle.
Oh, that's cool.
I do like that idea.
And I don't know. I found other places in Indianapolis that I thought would be magical. That the circle is a focus of magic that ends up being a big deal in the third book of that series.
So how did you two start doing paranormal investigations together?
I think, thinking back, Chrissy actually trained me.
Did I? Were you at the GC Murphy thing?
Ah, man, I don't remember, but
I did do the video, slideshow type things.
Yeah, because I remember you and your wife were really big into the group when I joined back in 2008.
Yeah.
So
I was doing training
you
stuff.
had to have trained me. I do remember we did go to Mansfield Reformatory together. I don't know if you remember
Yeah, that was
trip.
one of the last things we did, I think, just about.
Yeah.
It wasn't the best time for me and Amy. She had lost her fanny pack full of stuff on the way there, and she
Oof.
thought she'd lost her wallet and her
Oh no.
camera and her, just everything. So she was in a terrible mood from thought, and we did end up finding it. I think we thought it was at an Arby's and we called the wrong Arby's, and then later on we called another one and they actually had it. And so we, on the way back, we went there and got her stuff, and she was happy again. But it kind of put a wet blanket on what should have been a fun trip. And I still went ghost hunting, but it was, I was concerned about Amy because she was upset and she didn't really want to do anything. So, but
no, I can understand. That's an upsetting situation to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd freak out.
Yeah.
I would freak out if I lost my camera.
It was her wallet she was more worried about, but it was a super place to be.
But I remember a few of the different, I won't call them investigations, they were more like ghost hunts, but one of the training ones I went on, I think the first one I went on, we went to a random cemetery in the middle of Indiana, outside of Lafayette. And I remember our group it was the first cold spot I ever had experienced. But I also remember being circled by a pack of coyotes.
There were real coyotes there?
Yeah, we were that remote in Tippecanoe County that we're all just sitting there. We're doing an EVP session. We're really quiet and we hear rustling and then,
No.
and then we hear more and we're like, we just all made a beeline for the cars because we're just like, nope, we're not going to be pup food tonight. No, thank you. So,
the most
they probably it was kind of concerning. It was terrifying. And then another one was the old funeral home that was in Lafayette.
Oh yeah, I didn't go to that one.
We had a shower curtain open up on its own.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah, this was the place that had the owner or the renter had a skeleton dressed up that he named Lucy, which I believe I've told that story already. And it was not the biggest apartment in the world, and we're all crammed in the bathroom and the hallway right outside of it. Comfortable, ghost hunting. I'm sure this is just bringing back memories to you. And I'm sitting, I think, on the toilet next to the shower curtain. And we had already turned off the AC and heating units because they were making sounds, like just being on. They were way too loud. We're just sitting there doing an EVP session, and I don't remember the line of questioning we were doing, but suddenly the shower curtain ripped open, but it went away from me towards the wall.
Whoa.
So, and then myself and another investigator are looking around trying to figure out how that could have happened. It was just one of those really flimsy plastic shower curtains. It wasn't even a double-sided one, but it confounded us. We couldn't figure out why that happened. So that was the only unexplained thing that happened that night, though.
And that's the kind of thing we went ghost hunting to find, that kind of experience. It was just
that happened once a year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's the weirdest thing that ever happened to you while doing an investigation?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Good question. I have a funny story, but kind of funny. Gosh, I don't know. At Central State, it's nothing specific happened. We were all in this basement area where they used to store foodstuffs for the making food for the inmates, not the right word, the patients, I guess. Residents. Yeah, they weren't there on their own will though. So, but at one point everybody got dizzy, just like you could almost see the floor making waves, and and a couple of people ran out right away, and the rest of us took a little longer, and then but we all cleared the room within like 5 minutes because nobody could stand being in there anymore, and we didn't have any particular reason for it. Nothing showed up on EVP or video or anything later. It was just, we just suddenly, every one of us got, just felt like there was a slow earthquake going on. And it was just really hard to express to you, even as a writer, how that felt. And it was just, one of those things that I didn't want to ever go back in there again. And I was there for that sort of thing,
Wow.
and,
But it was like a perception thing. It just felt like, did it make you kind of woozy or
queasy? A lot of us got really queasy, and just like we're like the rocking of a boat, but on packed dirt ground.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds creepy.
I guess another one was, there were some special effects anyway. Another one that was a little bit more tangible at Bobby Mackey's Music World,
Yes.
Hell's Gate. We were down in the basement there, and several things happened while we were there. And that's one I fictionalized for Road Ghost. One of the places they investigate for the characters webcast in there was Bobby Mackey's, and these were somewhat fictionalized versions of what happened. And we were in. There was this room called the Room of Faces, and there's smudges on the walls that it's probably the faces that people see are more likely pareidolia than anything. Pareidolia, I don't know how to pronounce it. Matrixing, as they'd say, but your brain wants to make faces out of random, and it happens. There's smudgy paint, like cave or stone looking paint in my bathroom, that if I'm staring at it, and sometimes in the morning a face will pop out and all that. But same kind of thing with this shadowy, just smudges. And but we were in there, and we decided to turn out the lights, and several things happened. The first thing that happened was I saw little squiggly lights up around the perimeter of the ceiling that I jokingly called spermies at the time, but there were little squiggly white lights, and and I thought that
I totally get why you would have called them that.
And then two things happened at the same time. A woman who was with us said, "Oh my God, I have to get out of here." And she's one of the least, it was like the most unflappable of us. With like she would run toward almost any scary thing rather than away. She said she had to leave, and it was at the same time I had also sort of seen something in my mind's eye in the dark. I had this sudden picture of every one of us throwing back our heads and screaming, and it was this vivid image in my head because it was completely dark in there. And so I just had this image of us all just, and it was no sound. I just could picture us doing that. And at that moment when my friend said, "I have to leave." And so we turned on lights, we went outside, and outside she says, "I don't know if I should tell you this because you were not going to believe me." And I know it's okay to tell this story because I was told it was okay to fictionalize it, but she said that she had seen a sort of devil's face just right up in front of her. And she's not that, not the type that sees the devil in everything at all. She's very pragmatic about her ghost hunting, and so we had both had a vision at the same time. So that was the squiggly lights were the more tangible part of it, I guess. But
I've encountered those before at 2 other locations, and both of them had immense stuff happening like right after you see them. Like they're
So you've seen them too, then?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've seen them. They've been white in one instance and blue in another. And the most recent one was when I was at Sedamsville Rectory. Um, it's the why I was laughing over them being called spermies is because when they're glowing white and they're trailing, they leave a light trail behind them. It's exactly what they look like. Gigantic floating sperm going down the hallway.
Yeah.
It's really off-putting because you're sitting there like shadow people are walking around and then suddenly gigantic sperm are floating down the hallway. And you're like, well, I want to make fun of this, but we also have like Get Out being screamed by the Ovilus in our room. So it's just like, this is a weird juxtaposition of things happening. Yeah, so I always corpse candles is what they're like called in old English. Yeah, those are corpse candles. So whenever something really, really bad's about to go down, you'll see corpse candles. They're called hitodama in Japanese.
Interesting.
Or onibi, which literally means devil's fire. So.
Okay, so bad like what?
Oh, like that's when you like in their case in their case they saw the devil face and Chrissy saw the people reacting. In my case at Sedamsville, we got the something screaming at us through the speaker that wasn't a member of our party, and we saw shadow people. And then right after that, we saw the priest. And after that was the doppelganger. So when I mean bad, I mean when you're investigating a location, things go pear-shaped really quickly and panic just ensues after seeing these corpse candles.
Yeah, those
like your friend having to get out of the room.
Yeah, those two instances, the getting out of the room at Bobby Mackey's and the time in the at Central State, the only times I can remember ghost hunters really being scared. You know, you get the people who are new, they're for thrill seeking, they're trying to be scared. Sure. But having a room full of people who've been 100 places, month after month, suddenly go, I have to leave. That was, that's some real stuff. At least it feels real. If, because we're super skeptical. We look at everything and go, could that be like told the story earlier about being on the stairs at Hannah House and having something whisper in my ear, and I went, what? But I wasn't scared. I was just kind of got the willies when I realized that I couldn't explain it. But
see, that just freaks me out hearing it.
Yeah.
So.
I mean,
I love our stories freak you out.
They're scary. I mean, and I'm a thrill seeker. I do like those things. Again, I know I've said it before. I don't ever want to experience the real stuff. No, thank you.
Well, do you
just know if I excuse myself first, that means we're in trouble.
Okay.
That was what it was like when my friend said I have to go, because she was the bravest of us, I think. The least likely to be, scared by anything.
Do you ever get desensitized to it? Like seeing weird stuff happen? Or is it something that makes you generally more aware of sort of the pantheon of weird things that could happen around you?
I mean, the closest I could say to desensitizing is that we often stop and think, can I explain that first? Unless it's something just overwhelming, like those two things I was talking about. There was just, gut reaction where you have to, I don't have any other. I've seen shadow people and thought they were kind of cool. And so I guess that was desensitized in a way. But I was surrounded by, 10, 15 of my friends. So shadow people weren't, if I was alone in the woods and saw shadow people, I would freak the hell out. So,
Yeah.
But, with other people around, that's the thing. Most of these ghost hunts had a lot of people on them. No one's ever by themselves.
So do you have a sensitivity as well to paranormal things?
I mean, other than some gut feelings, I was usually the group skeptic. I got called the Simon Cowell of ghost photography. And I'll tell you why. The training that Kat probably saw, I still have it somewhere. I set up a tripod with a camera on it in my basement, and I tried to recreate various false positives. So I fluffed a pillow and I took a picture, and I got what dust orbs look like, and I sprinkled some quickcrete mix to simulate like scuffing in basement floors kind of thing, and got pretty much the same orbs. And I had a mug of tea to get steam, and I had incense to do smoke, and I put it on long exposure and moved it quickly so that the light sources would have streaks and all that. And these were sort of references so I could show people this is not paranormal. I did this myself. And a lot of people got sad because their favorite ghost pictures look just like these. And and part of it was because I got not upset, but I got frustrated because I wanted to know what was a good orb, because people would talk about, oh, this was a real orb, and the answer for what was a good orb varied. I would get some people would say, oh, if it has a pattern in the middle like a face, it's a good orb. And other people say, no, if you can see through it at all, it's just dust. And other people said, no, it has to be behind something like, I guess, like that light in my window there is sort of behind something.
It's a reflection.
It is a reflection. But so I wanted to recreate these. So I could tell it was a good one and was not. So at least I could rule out the
It was super handy. And I remember watching this presentation and going, oh, like I had a photo that was just full of dust and freaking out when it got developed and going, oh my God, my room is haunted. No, really, I just needed some pledge in there. So Jen, you're a photographer. Thoughts?
Yeah, well, was going to say, like, the reason I go on ghost hunts is to take pictures because I like creepy pictures. If I get something on it, great. And I have orbs. Some of them you can absolutely tell that they're dust. There's one in particular that I would love you guys to look at. I think it's dust, but I don't know. It's
send it
kind
to
of
us
like,
and I'll put it up.
Okay, I'm going to have to find it because it's on hard copy.
Whoa. Old school.
So
I like how all of us went, whoa.
I know. Nobody has paper stuff anymore.
This is before I went digital. But I think a lot of it is people don't understand the properties of light and how photography works. And I mean, a reflection is very easy to tell, mainly because sometimes they're confusing. You're like, wait a minute, what am I looking at?
Right.
I mean, especially if you really study something, you can see the direction light goes or where the light is coming from.
So what was that thing? Somebody had shown us a video like when they were away from home, and we looked it up, and it was like whoever makes those doorbells, is it called door or ring or what are they?
It's ring.
Yeah. They actually have a thing on their website saying that it's not a ghost in your house, that's dust, because so many people now have videos going on in their house, and you're looking at it later and it's like got these big old orbs and stuff and or weird shadows.
I kind of understand it to be like this. If this is the CCD that in your camera that takes the picture, the film, either one, and I'm not gonna use that finger. This is the lens, and that X makes the focal point of the picture or of the camera. When the flash goes off, if anything is in near the focal point of the lens, it looks huge and mutant and scary. And that's what orbs mostly are, dusts that are within that. So a lot of ghost hunters I knew did things like they would take their camera and they'd have a sort of a cone on it so that nothing could get in the focal length, or the flash couldn't light up anything in that. Some of the scarier
and
pictures
that range
I debunked later too, because I would do things like, where is the flash? Oh, here's the flash. I would like put my finger over the part of the flash. It would make this gigantic shadow in the image where a third of the image was completely covered in darkness. And I'm like, it wasn't dark when we were there. And I was all excited. And then later on I went, oh.
Oh, it's interesting. For the comic for our next issue of Cabinet of Curiosities, I was doing some research because it's about a medium. The story that I'm illustrating is about a medium in Cincinnati that was visited by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. because he was really into spiritualism, and they said that back then a lot of people really got into it because the new photos, like a lot of times, had ghostly images in them, and a lot of it had to do with the way the cameras were and how the processing was, and so people would see stuff and they'd completely fall for it. And it seems like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle really, like, I don't, it's interesting that Sherlock Holmes is so smart and like able to think of things with logic, because it sounds like anything, like he believed also in those fairies, that were in the turn. I mean, there was nothing he didn't. Yeah, there was nothing that he was like, wow, this is real. I mean, like I said, he traveled to Cincinnati, which of course at that time was a big deal. You didn't really travel that much. I mean, back then it would have been by boat, actually. I don't think you could have flown over here. That was one of the things that was sort of an impetus of the spiritualism, was all this new photography and how people would see like double exposures and maybe even dust and stuff like that, and say it was proof of.
Yeah, you had to have the lens open for like
or maybe the light
really still, for your picture. So
or
even just move a little bit, make you look like you're dead.
Or even some of those old cameras weren't that well sealed. Like, so light would get into it and expose the film in weird ways and stuff. It wasn't.
Got a lot of leaking.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure that there's probably a new version of that now, with everybody having cell phone cameras and stuff. Although it will never explain how come no matter how many cameras people have and how good they are, Bigfoot is still a big shadow.
Well, because trail cameras aren't in HD yet, which is not true. Some of them are.
It'll still be really shadowed.
Yeah.
Trail cameras. That's a good question. Why doesn't Bigfoot show up on trail cameras? Are they that?
That's a good point.
Yeah. Yep.
Doesn't want to be seen. Yeah, exactly.
No. They can read the whatever radiation or any kind of wave that comes off of it, and they can feel the electrical pulse of it. I don't know.
Becoming more advanced all the time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Of course, when I was a
Bigfoot,
kid, $1 million man fought a bionic Bigfoot, so they were already high tech. So.
That's true. That is very true.
Those were the days when you had the bionic.
When were you guys at Mansfield? Were you there just on your own, or were you with the
something like that?
Group?
I think that one was the 2010 trip.
Yeah, it was one of the last things we did, so it had to be almost 20.
Yeah.
But you were there as the group with like equipment and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder if I was there at that one.
Well, this one was a private one.
Oh, it was private. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Then.
Sorry.
Because one of them,
we had a private showing of Mansfield Reformatory.
That's fine. I did 2 or 3 of their ghost hunts, and on one of them, a group was there with equipment recording, and it would have been kind of funny if it was you guys.
That would have been that nice serendipitous movie moment.
Yeah.
We all turn to each other and look at each other and like in a meaningful way, although we don't know who each other are. Yeah, it's that was not my visit with Igor the Bat. That was the following visit. But
because I thought there was a
was
bat.
Was that it? Was that when I got the mouthful of bat?
A bunch of seasoned ghost hunters shrieking from. Or was that? No, wait a minute. Maybe that was no. I might be thinking of Waverly. There was a bat at Waverly, and
there's a bat everywhere.
Yeah, well, it was the only bat I ever encountered. But we that's not true. In the attic of Hannah House, I saw a baby bat. The baby bat in the cracks of the wood, and it was cute.
I think bats are adorable. They look like little puppy dogs.
Yeah,
yeah, they're cute.
Really cute. Yeah, one of the trips at Mansfield, they nicknamed the bat Igor. I always want to call it Igor. So, because
like Anastasia or
No, from Young
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
Oh, well, I thought there was a cartoon bat in Anastasia, and I can't remember what it was called.
Petrie, I think. Something like that. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I was just walking through the intake, which is in the center of the building, and the bat's wing went through my mouth, and yeah.
Oh,
Did I not tell you that story?
No.
Oh, I guess not. I've
much
told
as
it so many times.
I would not want a bat. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember running downstairs and just opening a can of Sprite and then like swishing it in my mouth and spitting it out in the bathroom. Just doing that repeatedly until all of the Sprite was gone, because I'm like, I'm going to die of the bubonic plague now. I was very certain of that driving home. But no, I'm here.
Didn't get rabies
10 years later. Anyway.
Ew.
Yeah.
So we probably should wrap things up so you can do that, because we still have a hometown haunt to read.
Yeah. So can you share where we can find your books, Chrissy, and people can follow you?
Sure. I have a WordPress webpage called sillyhatbooks.com, and there's an about page if you want to see all my social media contact stuff on there. It has links to, there's a fiction link that shows all of the covers of my books, so you can click on one to find out more about it and find it in stores. And there's another for my podcast called Alien Beer, which is named after one of my short stories, and that's also the name of my one of my books, Alien Beer and Other Stories.
Nice.
Which is what I use as the logo for the podcast. But the main thing I'm still doing on the I read every one of these stories on the podcast. So oops, I guess you don't have to buy this book if you want to listen to the podcast, but that's okay. The podcast is free. I like telling my stories, so it doesn't matter. And I have a science fiction serial called The Multiverse Blues that I've been doing on there, and I'm getting close to the end of the it's going to be a book in a few months. I've got most of the groundwork laid for that. I just have to finish writing it and recording it and then get it edited and then put it all together. But it is currently just in audio serial form. And I've been having fun writing it. I started it almost a year ago, and it's finally getting toward done. I'm putting it out every other week. So I took a hiatus while I wrote Transwitch, actually. So couldn't really, I have a hard time writing two things at the same time. I had to walk away from Multiverse Blues and then pick up Transwitch, and then I got to go, now where was I? And went back to Multiverse Blues. I'm on Facebook as Chris Garrison, like I publish as, and as my author page, and I'm wow, EC Garrison. I've spaced on my Twitter. EC Garrison on Twitter. I'm on there all the time. I just don't address myself much. It's like,
no, why would you?
I don't know. I don't call myself. So, and I'm on Instagram. I think as Chris Garrison. Those links are all on my Silly Hat Books page, though.
Yeah.
And I like I don't know. Most of the free stuff's on my podcast, though.
Okay.
You can get to hear me read the stories, and I'm not the best reader, voice talent in the world, but I'm working on it. I had to get over not liking my voice all that much. And I'm getting much better at Audacity for editing out the audio. So
Excellent.
Well, you have
I think
a
we
very
all
calming
understand that
voice.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, you have a very calming voice.
And I love audiobooks. That's how I actually don't read a lot of stuff as far as like in book form anymore. While I'm painting or working, I usually listen to audiobooks.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
I've got a year's worth of podcasts that are just fiction. If you want,
I'll have to listen to some of them.
Most of them are there are a lot of them that are 5 minutes because a lot of it is flash fiction. But the chapters from the Multiverse Blues are about 15 minutes.
Did you say flash or slash?
Flash. They're
Okay, I was like, wow, she's
under
into slash. So I was envisioning something totally different there for a second.
I mean, they're
Flash.
they're maybe
Christina,
I know,
my.
I know.
a lot of them end up being like
what's on your mind?
a lot of them like end up being two pages long.
Oh, neat.
Oh, that's
neat.
nice.
Fun. Okay.
Yeah,
I was on a site called the Iron Writer for a while where we had weekly competitions of doing I didn't do it every week, but there were people doing it every week where they would get 4 elements to incorporate into a story. They had 4 days to write it, and they could do it in 500 words. It had to be exactly 500 or very close to 500 words.
Wow.
You could be within 5% over or under. I made mine as exactly 500 words each time because I misunderstood the first time, and after that it became a thing. I would add and subtract words just to get it exactly 500. There's a 100-word one like that's like a forum. I can't do 100-word stories very well, but the 500-word ones are like 5-minute podcasts, and the chapter ones are more like a couple thousand words, so they're 15-20 minutes. So
I think that's one thing about science fiction, is one of the few genres where the short story is a big deal. It seems like very few other genres now appreciate short fiction anymore. I mean, it used to be a huge function, like in periodicals, and the New Yorker still has short fiction, but you don't see a lot of collections published of it. Like I've talked to a bunch of people that want to publish like YA short stories, and no editor ever wants to do it, and I don't know why, because I think kids would like short stories or would like to read short fiction, but it seems like science fiction
of them would be good.
It seems like science fiction is the only place where they actually publish these types of collections.
I think those stories are probably more character driven, and it's hard to get really invested in a character in 500 words or 1,000 words.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, there's some great. I just listened to we listen to a lot of audiobooks when we take road trips too, and we have a collection of short fiction that John Scalzi wrote, and I mean, his stuff is just so wonderful. They actually animated some of it, so if you watch, what is it, Love and Death plus Robots, is that the name of the thing?
Oh yeah, Love and Death and Robots.
Yeah, and he did the one about the yogurt that takes over the world. That's I mean, it's a short story that's probably like 2 or 3 pages, and they ended up animating it. And I suppose I shouldn't say too much because it would be a spoiler alert. They spare.
Yeah, I haven't watched this one. Guess I gotta go do that now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great. Actually, his stuff in that animated collection is some of the better stuff.
Oh wow.
Love, Death, and Robots, he says.
Okay.
It was on Netflix, and you can see animated stuff, but the collection of his short fiction, it's called Mini something. I think it's on Audible, and read by a bunch of different celebrity readers. Like he gets like these really. Zachary Quinto read a couple of his stories. Will Wheaton reads a lot of Scalzi's stuff. I mean, obviously a huge fan because we read a lot of his stuff. He's also fun to follow on Twitter.
Yeah, I've mostly read his like essays and things. It was very funny. A lot of stuff about writing that's good.
Yeah. I think he actually used to be president of the Science Fiction Writers Association.
I think you're right.
Oh wow.
Speaking about sort of the topic of where you wrote your story kind of as a answer to Harry Potter and the author. Sorry, I was going to say the author who should not be named.
Yeah, I was about to say the series that should not be named.
Bleep that. Bleep that in editing.
I can bleep it out. In editing.
Please put a cat meow in.
Meow would be better. I'll squeeze my cats till they make one.
No, don't hurt the cats.
Oh, it would not probably require much hurting of them. Our cat Miffy just talks. But one thing that I think the science fiction writing community is they've really tried to be a lot more inclusive.
Yes.
As far as like Hugos and Nebulas and selecting pieces of fiction to get awards and stuff. I think that they've worked really hard to make it a diverse playing field. I don't know how you feel about that, Christine.
Diversity is good.
but I think they've made more of an effort than a lot of
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that.
Well, I mean, nothing's going to be perfect,
No.
you know, and it
As
is,
long as no one's specifically excluded, you know, that's what really got me to write my thing, because I was, you know, feeling like, oh yes, we love all kinds of diversity, and this character was actually gay, even though we never had anything that indicate that in the book. But you know, it's kind of signaling, but you know, it's but that's okay, I suppose. But saying everybody but you is is
Yeah.
not cool. So
Yeah.
that's what kind of spurred me to write my thing. So it was out of spite, but it turned into something more positive. So
but in a way, that's kind of an exciting way to deal with that frustration, you know, in a creative and positive way, you know, and make something even more interesting.
I'm glad it turned out that way. My initial one was going to be mean, and I don't like being mean. And at the time, I was mad, so I felt mean. But at the time that I first proposed it, and I was making kind of a parody. But I don't know. I mean, then there was, I don't know if you should mention him, but the what's his name? He does all the terrible porn, fake porn, with dinosaurs and motorcycles. Chuck
Well, that
Tingle.
sounds.
Chuck Tingle, you know who he is?
I no,
He
but
does ridiculous, outrageous, stupid things, and it's on purpose.
sounds entertaining.
And it's nobody's really sure if he's one person or a group or an artificial intelligence or something. But he churns these books out, and they're all just, I guess, hilarious. He did one that was a.
Oh, I have heard of them.
After I made my joke on Facebook, he came out with one called like Harriet Porber, transgender wizard or witch or something like that, and with a bunch of other things in the title that were more porny. And I'll admit I bought it just to see, and it was not as funny as I thought. It wasn't bad.
No.
It was just it was weirdly slow paced for something that had to have been churned out in like a couple of months at most. And and it was meant to be a lampoon, but I think when he was writing, he took it a little too seriously. It just wasn't all that, you know, it wasn't really especially funny, but, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't mean. It wasn't mean toward, it was certainly supportive of trans people, but it was, it just treated it in a weird way. And the title was meant to be sensationalist and to tick off that particular author that they were parodying. But, and I started off with mine with that intent, but when I got to writing it, I cared about my characters too much to make them vehicles for being mean. And, you know, I wanted to root for my characters, and I wanted to, so, I mean, there may be a character who might remind you of somebody in there, but that's certainly totally coincidental. So it's not as vivid and mean as I originally wanted it to be, but I think I'm happier with what I came up with at the end.
Well, it sounds like you got tied up in doing the story, like the story and the characters just called to you so much that you sort of diverted from your original, you know, saying this is ridiculous, I'm going to make fun of this, to wow, I kind of like these characters, I'm going to make it something interesting.
Hook my own self with a library, you know. It's a place I wanted to be, rather than just a haha in your face, you know. It was you know, it was like, well, this is kind of cool. I want to.
So do you think you're going to develop this concept more?
I don't know. I wrote it and not intending to make sequels, but I've done that with 2 other books that became trilogies, and others a third set of 2 that's itching to be a trilogy as well. It's not my intent to turn every book into a trilogy, but at least I have one standalone reality check. But that's not really a standalone, because one of the Trans-Continental series spun off of that, and the Multiverse Blues is sort of a spin-off of that. So in a way, it's a trilogy now. But so I've got an issue with 3s, I guess. But you know, I might come back to Trans Witch. I just don't have it's too soon. I just wrote it. you get to a point where you know the book back and forth, and you have to walk away from it. And maybe next year I'll go, hey, wouldn't it be cool if Lily did this, or you know, the and I'll and then I'll get all caught up with okay, I have to write this. But at the moment, I have no idea where I would take it, because I kind of blew things up at the end in a way. No spoilers, but I'm not sure how I would. It would be a totally different book, a different premise in a way. So.
Yeah.
But maybe there's a place for your library.
Oh, the library will still be there. It's just that a lot of the secrets get exposed. So this, it's a college of secrets. So a lot of things come out that would change the nature of the place. So, and the people. So I'd have to think. The other books kind of left room for sequeling. This one, in theory, I mean, I could. There's there's perfectly good characters that could do other things. I just don't know what they would do, because the big point of this one's resolved. So maybe I'll come up with something else that would be, since it would be the second of 3, because I can't write just 2. I'd have to think of the Empire Strikes Back of Trans-Witch,
Yeah.
Trans-Witch 2, the Wizards Strike Back, Oh no, I'm kidding.
Well, on that note, I'm sure we'll have you on again, especially for all of your future books. So I'm looking forward to them.
That'd be great. I won't have any new ghost hunting stories probably, because it's been a few years since that. But I've got plenty that I didn't tell tonight. So
yeah. We'd love to have you back, Chrissy. This has been really fun. I just don't want to take up all your evening.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah,
it was really nice to meet you.
Yeah, great to hearing your stories.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have a wonderful hometown haunt that's submitted to us by one of our listeners. And this is exciting because it is a follow-up to our story about 2 weeks ago about Kings Island. And our listener has requested to remain anonymous, but this is what they wrote. Hello. I recently listened to your podcast about Kings Island. I actually work there, and I have a few different ghosts that I have seen, or some of my coworkers have seen. Kings Island Theater has a few different spirits. In the upstairs costume shop, there is a spirit that takes on the form of people, but when you look at its face, it's dark. I have been told that it is called a shapeshifter and is an evil spirit. In the lobby of the KIT, the Kings Island Theater, I have witnessed this. There is a little boy that during shows, when we close the doors and turn off the lobby lights and walk to the end of the lobby, he will shake all the door handles. Then when we open the door to look outside, there would be no one there. There's also a dark figure that sometimes see up in the light booth and catwalk. In the old 4D theater, me and some of my coworkers have seen dark figures in the projector room. I don't know if this is a spirit, but it's kind of weird. In the old Carnival build, which has now been turned into a Peanut showplace, when we are playing music, the Carnival music will sometimes play under whatever is playing in the Peanut showcase. Also, this sound system that they use for Carnival isn't even in the building anymore. I really enjoyed listening to your stories about Kings Island, and I thought you might like to hear about some of mine. Thank you. That was a wonderful email. And if you would like to send us your own hometown haunts, you can send them to hometownhauntedmail@gmail.com. Thoughts?
That was really, I'm so glad that person wrote, and I hope other people will write about their hauntings. We've got a couple other hauntings in the pipeline we're going to talk about too. That are really spooky.
I love theaters, and I love theater haunts. They're my favorites.
It seems like there's a lot of, and we've had some hometown haunts that were in theaters before. I wonder if it has to do with, there's something about the energy a theater creates that causes there to be, perhaps maybe even the act of theater makes you more heightened to them. Well,
have you ever met a theater major? They're so dedicated to their craft. The most dedicated people I've ever talked to, and enthusiastic about everything.
Oh, totally.
And they love their theater. And they if you're local, you're living in the theater, you're constantly going there for different practices or just performances.
There's just a lot of drama inside and out. Yeah.
Yeah, basically. So yes, we are recording this on Women's Day, which is March 8th, but when this comes out, it will be March 10th. And there's one very big anniversary that happens the day after, which is March 11th. And this is, I think, more of a me thing and less of a all of you thing, but this is remembering the great Tohoku earthquake and tsunami, and or the Higashi Nihon Daishinsai. So, as many of us know, on March 11th, 2011, we had, or Japan had the large Tohoku earthquake that shook the northeast part of the island. It ended up stealing 15,889 people, and 2,529 are still missing. The reason why I bring this up is we are the Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities, and Cincinnati has a very long and deep history with Japanese exchange, to the surprise of a lot of people. President Taft was a friend of Emperor Meiji, who is the great grandfather now of the current emperor, and a lot of our cherry trees and plants that are in our parks were donated by the country of Japan back at the turn of the century. So we actually have a sister city with Gifu City, Gifu Prefecture, and we usually, outside of normal parameter, like outside the pandemic, we usually host about 30 to 40 students every year from Japan. They're from Gifu, but I've also been to Sendai that has been affected by the Tohoku earthquake. But we also have a lot of families that have direct ties to Miyagi Prefecture, in particular to Ishinomaki City. And Ishinomaki City saw some of the worst of the tsunami. What I do want to say is we pay our respects to the families of Ishinomaki and Okawa Elementary School, who lost 78 of their 108 students and 9 of their 13 teachers that day. Sorry. This is a really bummer note. I'm sorry, everyone. And Ishinomaki also had the American teacher the American teacher Taylor Anderson, who I didn't know personally, but we walked very similar paths. We were both Japanese linguistics students. She ended up going to Japan when I did not, and she was living in Ishinomaki when the earthquake happened, and she lost her life, saving all of her students. And the library that's in the school where she taught is actually now dedicated to her and has its own little area. So, sometime in the future, we will have representatives for the Ishinomaki Playground Project, which I helped fundraise for, and also the Gifu Sister City, because it's an interesting history that we have with Japan. But the Ishinomaki Playground Project actually raised funds to rebuild a playground around Okawa Elementary School. So I did want to mention this just before the anniversary. It's a big day, especially for a lot of us that have so much of such a deep relationship with Japan. It affected a lot of us. I had friends that lost family there, didn't see family for days, but I did want to say we remember everyone. We send prayers to you and your family, and I don't know what else to say other than it's a tragic loss for everyone. So I guess I'm going to close it on this sad note. So thank you for listening to the Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities. Cabinet of Curiosities. Sorry, I'm all jarbled now. Hometown Haunts podcast. I'm your host, Kat Cloco. With me is Jen Kohler and Christina Wald, and our great guest has been my microphone, and Chrissy Garrison. And we will see you next week. Thank you. Stay curious.